Welcome, everybody, to Mark Bajerski. I guess this is a hot topic today, so I think I'm going to upset quite a lot of people in this conversation. Anyway, it is what it is. Truth shall hold its own in the end. And I guess truth is subjective to the experience that you've been through or you're going through. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to talk to you about something that many people keep asking me to talk about, and that is the ongoing escalation of hatred towards Muslims, the grooming gangs in the UK, Tommy Robinson, the Farages, the Musks now that have chipped in, Katie Hopkins, all of these people who are generating a conversation with regards to their truth and experience in the UK. I'm a healer. So for me to talk about this is ridiculous, because my job is to help one person at a time feel better and heal so that they don't feel bad or they don't give bad energy to others. This kind of level of conversation now that we're talking about is way out of my understanding and league. So why am I talking about it? I talk about it from a sense of a playground, how I see things, and I try and put them into a context that you might think, oh, I never really understood. I never saw it like that. So some people who have dyslexia can see things beyond what's been forced into the eyes and hearts and ears of humanity. And everything is a playground. Everything is a stage. Everybody who has been persecuted, everybody who's been elevated, it's all a stage. Doesn't matter which way you see it, whether it's been locked up in prison for 20 years for your belief, whether you believe that or not, it's all a stage show. And at the end of the day, whatever we believe in and whatever happens to us along this journey is a personal experience. We can take from that as what we want to kind of emphasize a point or use it as this is the truth because of this. And, we can do that with any conversation. Most people have already made their minds up. So they're trying to find ways to make you believe what they're saying. Most people are not open at all. They say they are. Even the most intellectual people say they're open, but they've already made their mind up. So it's very hard for humanity to be open to a discussion. Their discussion is basically like a lawyer fighting for his client, and some lawyers they'll fight tooth and nail because they'll believe their client. And some lawyers will fight tooth and nail even though they know their client's full of shit. So it's all perspective. You look at it and you think, okay, everything. I say this is why I don't talk about politics, because politics is the dirtiest field of work there is. I mean, if there was ever a dirty playing field to start on, it's politics. It's more dirtier than any club, any organization. Politics is exactly why they call it ticks. They're parasites. And it works really well for parasites, and it works well for those who have already made their mind up because of what they want. So politics is more of a thing of me rather than us. They talk about politics as if they want the world to be a better place. But if you individually take somebody who's into politics and sit them down and have a meal with them, you'll soon realize very quickly that they don't give a shit about anybody else. They only give a shit about what they want. So if you ever go on to, I'll give you a great example, go on to any politics group, right, on Facebook or anywhere, find a group who talk politics, and you will see skullduggery, nasty, ego-driven, power-hungry, hateful people on them sites. That's why you feel sick when you get on there, because you will be attacked. You will be attacked because they can smell somebody who is new, somebody who is, it's basically they hunt down, and they're like a pack of savage dogs who claim to be super intelligent, but they're super monstrous. So I stay away from politics, don't talk about it, because it's the most dangerous cesspit there is. It is pure evil to its core. That's why I don't go near it, I don't talk about it. But this conversation here I'd like to share with you, with what's going on right now, is another perfect example. But to give you some context of my understanding of all of this which is happening now, I take you back maybe 20 years ago. I came from Huddersfield. That's my hometown. And we moved when I was 38 years old to here, this beautiful mountain called Mijas, M-I-J-A-S, Mijas Pueblo. And I moved here because I wanted an easier life. I didn't want to be involved in suffering. I didn't want to be involved in the knife culture, which was starting to become really awful. Even at the nightclubs, Ethos, Visage, where we used to go, there were packs of guys who used to have knives, and they used to like stabbing people. And I didn't want to bring my daughter up in that environment. And it was getting worse. The segregation of Muslims to the whites were quite awful, and we could see the hatred. Now there was loads of other hatreds, and there were loads of other things to worry about. It wasn't just Muslims with knives. There was loads of white guys with knives. So there was always this, oh, there's a group of these people doing this, but there was groups of different, we were having guys coming from war-torn countries, Kosovos, and there was stabbings, and so it was multicultural crime, but there's also multicultural love and compassion. So there were loads of around my area of places of worship that I knew. They used to come into my shops, and I used to have an auction house, and they used to love coming to auction houses and get a good deal. So I had a lot of Muslim friends. I grew up with them. So I didn't see it like it's being shown now by the Tommy Robinsons and the others. And I understand where they're coming from to a degree. There's a degree of, I understand this. Why? Because I understand what he's feeling, what he's going through, his pain and suffering of what's happened to him personally and what he's seen through his friends and so on. So I'm open to everything, for sure I am. I get it. But that said, my story is when I came here, I was married, and when I was married, my wife then said, is it possible if we can have somebody stay at our home for a short while? It's a member of her family, and she's going through such a terrible time at the moment, and she wants to come over with a dad just to get away. Now, I was one of the first people to know about the grooming gangs. I knew about these grooming gangs forever. It was a thing that we'd heard about, and so this was one of the first time that I think in Huddersfield anybody had ever taken action over it. So I was well involved in it. I saw what happened firsthand to a member of my wife's family who was going through such. It just broke her. It totally broke her, and it broke her father. And her father's a big, strong guy, but he was very, very frightened for his life because they decided to prosecute. Nothing ever came of it because that's what happens. Unfortunately, the system is evil. So the system, and it isn't just because of the color or race. The system is really now more than ever is rewarding people for doing the worst things. I mean, all you need to do is look at, 50 to 80% of people who have been given medals or honors or, sirs when you look at the royal family. Look at the sirs, look at, Jimmy Savile, Sir Jimmy Savile. I could go on and on, but I won't. But my point being is that when you're good and kind and loving, you find that it doesn't really work in your favor in this world. This world is about as much hate and fighting and greed, and then you're okay. You're in the world that you've come into. That's the world that is run. This is how it's run, by darkness. Darkness is always nudging you to do bad things, to be in that bad energy, because darkness then wins all the time. That said, I'd like to first of all say, this is how I feel, and I wrote this down because it's really relevant to me. Okay, and we're going to talk about the playground scenario. I wrote this down because it means awful lot, and you should write it down too. Ultimate evil doesn't take sides, it uses them all. Okay, so the world we live in, there is an energy force that is dark. It is dark whether you believe in entity, demonic, whether it can take over you, or whether it's there to manipulate people, or whether that dark energy or those dark forces or those dark spirits or those dark souls that reside in the human being, which I call monsters, they are all controlled, or they are all part of the darkness that you would say, why would another human being push a button to kill that person? Why would another human being rape a child? So the playground is a little bit like that. So the playground is my observation of this world. The playground is my way of sharing to you what's going on in this world. So the playground has beautiful people in, and the playground has bullies in, the playground has weak people in, and so on. Now, ultimately, the strongest survive. So the bullies normally are the stronger, the ones that want to cause pain and suffering in the playground. So they will utilize anybody in that playground, and they will look for certain people who are weak in mind, weak in body, easily manipulated, and they're weak because they're frightened. So evil, or let's call him Billy today. Billy is a little evil little bugger, and Billy wants to control the playground. So what Billy does is he starts to recruit people who are weak and who are easily manipulated, who get angry quick, who are willing to do things that no other children in the playground would do. So once Billy's got these people under his control, he then starts to spread his messages to his pack, telling them to start to cause trouble with everybody, start to fight with each other. Billy doesn't care about these people who are fighting with each other, and all the people who are frightened of Billy, who want to be with Billy because they know that if I'm with Billy, Billy ain't going to punch me. He isn't going to steal my food. In fact, he's going to think I'm his hero, and he's going to be my friend. And I want to be his friend because I'm frightened of not being his friend, because I don't want to be behind, one of his punches in my face. I don't want his punch in my face. So, a lot of people are easily influenced in the school playground. So, Billy uses everybody. Billy knows what he wants, and Billy is doing his best to cause great trauma in the playground. And now he knows that the one thing he has to do is get everybody to hate each other. In that energy playground, if everybody hates each other, then he's living in his perfect environment. That's why I say go to a a politics online group and just listen to them. They're like a pack of wolves ravaging a lamb. Okay, they're brutal. Well, that's the same as a playground with Billy. Billy wants that playground. He wants everybody to fight each other. And, everybody looks up to Billy. Everybody thinks Billy's great. They don't look up to him. They're frightened of him. So they pretend to I always remember my brother was a tough, he's still alive. My brother's a tough guy. He was always a tough guy, real tough. Everybody knew about my brother. I'm just a skinny little lad. And, my brother was huge and very strong, and nobody would mess with him. And people would come up to me in nightclubs and buy me a drink, and then they'd say to me, "Oh, tell your brother, I bought you a drink and said hello. Say hello to your brother. Tell it, And I'm like, wow, these are petrified people who are frightened of my brother, and they want to score points, right? This is the playground. This is how it all works. And I used to get so angry at that and think, what a weakling, what an idiot. But there's a lot of idiots about. So the playground exists with one pure evil monster manipulating the whole of the playground. Doesn't matter what color any of the children are, but he's going to use the color as a way to find separation. He's going to do everything he can to separate everybody in that playground. Ultimately, evil wants the playground in complete chaos. Because when you've got a playground in chaos, you can do whatever you want. You can manipulate every single person in that playground so much more easier. Anybody who had an inkling of Billy being an evil monster, now most people are not even contemplating coming together to talk about certain things because they're frightened of their life. They're frightened of what Billy will do. And everybody's frightened of Billy. Nobody's willing to talk to each other. Maybe there's a few black sheep in there saying, I'm not going to allow him to, tell me what to do. But it didn't really make any difference to the rest because everybody was just about themselves and they didn't want to get hurt. So they weren't willing to stand together as a crowd, which if they did, they would have stopped evil in the playground straight away. If everybody just stopped and talked to each other and said, Billy is the cause of our pain, we should all come together. And if he says anything to one of us, we all jump on him and we all give him a good slap and then he'll stop straight away. Billy knows this. Billy knows the weakness. Billy knows all the weaknesses. He is evil, so he knows what he needs to do. So Billy needs to separate everybody. So Billy then starts to talk about color. He starts to talk about race. He starts to talk about anything he can so that people talk about each other and then start to create hate, which creates division, which creates separation, which then creates power to evil, to Billy. Billy now has won the playground. He's got it all in his control. He's got his gophers walking around, checking everybody that they're not all talking to each other and talking about Billy or talking about their pack of wolves, just like politics. And by the way, that is the playground that I talk about is very similar to the groups of those who are in politics. They're all minions. They mean nothing. They're just a joke. They're all put in their place. That's why they're all on one side or another. They've grown up from the playground, but they've brought the playground to the world, and now they're doing the same things. They're all a bunch of nasties who were influenced by Billy, and they still got that influence all on these social media platform groups where they hate everybody. So the hate has just continued. But there's a few of us that said no to all of that. I don't want to be part of any group about you monsters. I don't want to be fearful. I don't want to be involved in this. And then you've got your groups coming around everywhere, right? The ones who say that they're against hate, which are the most hateful people in the planet. Anybody who claims to be of some kind of club or some kind of group that we are against this are the worst there possibly are. They're the ones in the playground who are the bullies and the nasties. They're the same ones. It's all about control. So there's still loads of them. After the playground, they're all over the place. And they're all doing their best to try to get you to be on a side. Now, in the playground, Mark Bayersky never took sides. There was always kids, always sticking together with each other. That's the wolf mentality pack. But I was a loner. I didn't want that. So I was always on my own, played with everybody, and everybody might have hated everybody, but I played with everybody. And I didn't care whether John hated Peter and Peter hated Paul. I didn't care about that. I played with everybody. So I didn't choose sides. And I always thought it was, I couldn't understand why people were choosing sides. I know for a fact if somebody's evil and does something awful, then I'm very aware of that and I keep well away from that. But that said, just because somebody's nice, it doesn't mean that I have to stick with them. And this idea of I need my crowd and my group, no. I believe if something bad happens, we should come together as a whole, as humanity, and stand strong. But that won't ever happen. It will never happen because everybody has got their own purpose, their own belief, their own thoughts, their own programming. It's not, and it never is. People say that they care about humanity, but they don't. They care about themselves. Most people are genuinely selfish and they want their needs. And if that need fits into what they want, then they'll be all for it. So I find it, again, fascinating when people are trying to pull me into, why don't you say anything about the war which is going on right now? Why don't you talk? Are you for Israel or are you for Palestine? I'm not for anybody. I'm not for any of those things. I don't fight for one or another, and I will never fight. But I just find it fascinating that perpetual wars basically keep going because humanity takes sides. It should be as simple as, I don't want to see anybody hurt or killed, full stop. And that's what we should focus on. No war, no killings. And then you get the angry mob again saying, oh my God, this guy's stupid. He doesn't understand what's going on. Why? Because I don't believe in taking sides. You want me to take sides? That means you one side's going to hate me and the other side's going to think I'm amazing. That's not what I want. I just want people to stop fighting. When you start to look at wars, you realize wars are created. All wars are created. They don't just start for no reason. A war is created. Like Billy in the playground, he creates his wars. He starts with a playground full of children that are happy and joyful, and he hates it because he's a monster. And the monster wants to cause pain and suffering. He wants to see people die. He wants to see people fall. He wants to see people blown up. That's what Billy wants. He grows up to the same thing. There could be reasons for it. You could use that as a reference point. You can use, I don't know, the leader of Israel at the moment, Benjamin Netanyahu. You could easily say that the reason why he hates Muslims is because his brother was killed in one of the raids that his brother was on. He was the only soldier that was killed in a certain raid. And because of that, he turned to hate and he wants to kill every Muslim in the world. I don't buy that. I believe it was only part of the reason that he would use, I would say. It's only part of the monster that lies within that then gives an excuse to be able to then cause pain and suffering. I don't know the true understanding of monsters. I don't know why they do what they do, apart from one thing that I have learned, that monsters don't need a reason or an excuse. Monsters are happy to cause the greatest suffering in the world because it makes them feel good. It's food for their soul because their soul is about killing, harming, causing death. That feeds them. That's their home natural energy. That's what they are. That's normal to them. So a monster doesn't even think twice about pushing a button and killing or blowing up a hospital or blowing up a school. That's why so many schools and hospitals always get blown up when there's a war, because they feed from that energy. It isn't exactly a religion or a cult. It's just the monster that was inside that body from being a baby. It came into that body, and now it's serving its energy purpose, which is to cause as much death and destruction. And you normally find that these monsters are always at the highest levels of where the control is and where the power is, because you are a loving, kind soul. You don't want control. You don't want power. You're that child in the playground who just wants a happy life, to be able to play with anybody and know that you come from the same level of love and kindness and sharing and having fun as anybody else. But mankind hasn't grasped this fact that this world is a world that many souls from many different parts of this cosmos can come into. We all say that we are one. We're not all one. The bodysuit is one. It's the same bodysuit on this planet. But what enters into this bodysuit as a consciousness, they're all different. And there are monsters that come into this world as there are beautiful souls like you. This is never talked about and never will be. But one day it will be. In 100, 200, 300 years, we will know by way of their actions. You will know them by their fruits. And at the end of the day, guys, it's something that nobody's ready for. So let's get back to this Farage, Musk, Tommy, Katie Hopkins. Are they bad people? I don't believe they are bad per se. Do I think they're monsters? I don't have any doubt that these people, whatever they're doing it for a certain reason and purpose. Sometimes we're manipulated to do something without even realizing what we're doing. Sometimes we'll do something and we'll scratch our heads and think, Jesus Christ, I thought I was doing right. And then actually, maybe that's not so right. I'll give you a great example. Everything that I do, I try and do because I believe it's the right thing to do, right? But I've come to terms with certain things that I did over the past that I thought, was that right? I like to ask myself that every day, check in. I used to say to people, it's important that we find our own path. It's important that we find ourselves and learn to be happy with ourselves. It's important to, believe in yourself. It's important to know that you are ultimately the power within. So all of those things are beautiful, but then sometimes they're taken out of context. And then you find that you've got a group of children who now have grown up to believe, because of their parents who listened to people like me and said, okay, we should treat our children and treat them differently. Like, we used to be like we used to be beat by our teachers. We'll give them everything that they want. We'll tell them that they're beautiful, that they're amazing, that they can do anything that they want. And then these children grow up to be, I don't know, self-serving, little manipulators, hate. They don't want to speak to anybody. They don't want to work. Some of them are frightened of anything bad that anybody says about them. And then I sit there thinking, maybe I was part of making that child because of my words, and maybe it wasn't such a good thing. So I question myself all the time. I think we all should. So I would say to the Farages, the Musks, the Tommy Robinsons, the Katie Hopkins, that maybe without you knowing, and that the fact that you've gone through all that you've gone through, and the hate that you have for whatever it is you hate, or you might not even hate, you might just think that what you're watching and looking at now is wrong, and you want it all to be changed. And I get that to a degree. The only issue I have is that when I see these people, I see the fact that there is a divide, more so by talking about these things than ever before. And I also see that that divide is starting to encourage people to take sides without, if Katie might be here saying, no, I don't want people to take sides. I just want people to recognize what's going on. I don't want these people in my country causing pain and suffering. I get all of this. The one person who gets it is me. I left my country to come to Spain with nothing. I had 5,000 euros in my pocket and I started working. I did not expect this government to take care of me. I did not separate myself from everybody else in this town and started just hanging out with the English people going to the pubs. Absolutely not. I was in the center of the town. I was right in the heart of Mias Pueblo, and I learned Spanish as best as I could, and I got on with all the Spanish people there, and I integrated. I took my child to Spanish school. So don't cast your stones at me when I speak like this if you're angry at me now. I'm just talking about what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a very worrying trend that when Musk says that we need to, save Tommy Robinson and get him out of prison and all that, well, I don't think Tommy's as beautiful as what you think. I wouldn't have him for dinner at my house. I certainly wouldn't trust him. But, hey, he is who he is, and he's been created, and he's gone through the playground. He's got loads of different friends. He talks about lots of friends. He always used to talk about different friends of all these old videos. But what I noticed and I started seeing a pattern of is that everything that's being talked about is leading to strengthening this idea of Israel. It seems to be strengthening Israel's point for some strange reason. So Tommy Robinson apparently has connections to Israel, whether it's religion or whatever it is, there's connections there. Musk, there's connections now to the support of Donald Trump and so on, which there is connections there to the lobbyists with regards to Israel. I have no idea about Katie Hopkins, but it seems that it's supporting the very nature of the beast, that is to cull Muslims. It seems like it's a culling. And I even have friends that say to me, right? They say, I'm totally against wars, but you know what? I'm not really interested whether all these Muslims get killed, because I know what can happen if they take over. They'll behead everybody who isn't a Muslim. So they're infidels and they will rape all the women. And so maybe it's a good thing. I've actually got friends who believe that, but won't say it. They'll say it behind closed doors. And I'm like, what? You're justifying death to children, to women and children. And I just struggle. I struggle to understand it, because I can see it's another way of separation. It's another way of hate. It's another way of basically allowing the culling to continue. And the culling for me isn't about Muslim. It isn't about Israel's or Jews or Germans. It's about culling those that are on the planet. I ask you to step out of the bubble of separation and hate and war and persecution towards whatever group you're in or religion you're in, but just look at the whole picture. Billy in the playground has separated all of these people like Katie and Farage. He's made everybody hate each other without even saying that they hate anybody. And now we're finding more and more people, instead of allowing people to get on with their life, we're just finding that we are using certain fractions of people who are bad, and we're pointing our finger at them. So then we blame everybody. Do you honestly believe that all Muslims are all bad? Well, I live with hundreds of Muslims up here. hundreds, and I've got on with them, and they're the most amazing, kind, caring people. Are there bad Muslims who want to cause harm and suffering? So we go back into the playground. There are people who are willing to do bad things, who are monsters, who, no matter what it is, they want to cause pain and suffering because they're monsters. They come from another part of this universe, and they come from a source of pure evil and hatred where they feed from suffering and pain and war. And they come into these bodies and they want to continue that very same thing. It's not about color. It's not about what country you're from. It's just that souls come into these bodies, no matter where you are in the world, and there's good souls and there's bad souls. We as humans only see it on one level, and we point and say, look, that's a bad Muslim. Like, no, that's a bad soul inside that body, which just happens to be born in a country which is different from yours. You see, what we're finding is that there's more and more hate, which is shrinking our intelligence. It's shrinking our consciousness and understanding. So we become more hateful. We become more fearful. I don't fear any of these things. I don't fear nothing. I don't fear evil. I don't fear monsters that are in these bodies that we come into. I don't feel any of those things. And because I don't fear them, I can't be manipulated. You can't pull me into your wars. You can't pull me into your arguments about whether we should hate Israel or we should hate Palestine. You can't do that to me because I'm not weak. I'm not stupid. And I'm not easily manipulated. And I'm sure you guys aren't. So we stand back and we see, this isn't about color. This isn't about race. This is about a universal energy, which is called evil, that is manipulating every form of life on this planet as human beings to cause as much hate and suffering as possible. The higher you get, the more suffering you can cause. The more powerful you become, the more suffering you can cause. So this is where I am. ISIS, the Taliban, Hamas, they're all man-made created. They're created just like a playground can be created into something awful or something beautiful. If Billy is running the playground and he's got everybody committed to doing what he wants, you've now got a playground where if somebody dares come from another school into that playground, you better be careful. The playground right now in this world is basically run by evil, and it is presenting itself as gods or heroes. There's no hero, in my humble opinion, when you look at Tommy Robinson, Musk, Farage, Trump, that none of those are heroes. They're all part of the very same game, the playground that's being played. They're wanting you to take sides. They're wanting you to do this, and they're wanting to support that side and not support that side. It's not about supporting any side. It's about saying enough is enough. It's really simple. We don't want war. We don't want to hurt anybody else. We all know that it's perpetual motion. When you bomb somebody's house, the rest of the family is going to live in hate and want revenge because there's a lot of monsters. You find that if you bomb a house and they're all dead, and then the rest of the family, if they're good souls, they just want peace. They don't want revenge. They just want it all to stop. So like I said, you're always going to get monsters, and you can always breed into that monster even more hate, and you can give them the playground that they want so that they grow up to continue that playground energy wherever they are. So that's how I see this world. I am not for any race. I am not for any political party. I am just for love, kindness, and live and let people be. If somebody does something bad, then yes, of course, they should be put away and kept away from humanity. Of course, that makes sense. You can't allow a monster to walk this earth to manipulate and cause harm or rape a child or kill somebody. Of course, they must be put away because we live on a planet which is run by evil. But the problem is, guys, that's not happening because evil is in control. And at the highest level of all politics, in general, you find that they are all in that playground with Billy, and they've all grown up to be hateful, spiteful, and to cause as much suffering, and they want as much control, and they want to cause pain to everybody. And that's where we are right now. Evil seems to be flourishing in this world. Evil seems to be happening more and more, and it seems to be growing stronger and stronger. The only way forward for me is not to be brought into this war, not to be pulled into politics, not to be pulled into hate or race or whatever. When you stand back and say that there are souls in this world that are good, and there are souls in this world that are evil, and they reside in these bodysuits, and we need to recognize the difference between the two. And that said, you get this double-edged sword, or wow, you're a hypocrite, Mark. You're saying on one breath that we shouldn't judge or we should be separate, but now you're telling us that there's good and bad souls in this world. And thus lies the most difficult conversation, because it seems what I'm saying, well, what are you saying, Mark? 1 minute you're saying don't hate anybody, but now you're saying that we have to be careful of monsters and hate the monsters. I'm not saying hate the monsters. What I'm saying is be careful, because don't be pulled into the world of this, that we should hate this sect, this group, this religion, this breed. Don't be pulled into that. What you need to recognize is who is a good soul and who isn't a good soul. Once you recognize the good and the bad souls, once you recognize the ones that are easily manipulated because they want to stay in their energy of power. Elon Musk, to me, is a man who just wants power. He comes across, as most salespeople do, as a wonderful, but know them by their actions, know them by their fruits, watch them, watch what they do, not what they say. So here's a quick question. If you opened a company, a bicycle company, okay, and that bicycle company started selling thousands of bikes because it's a new modern version of a bike, but then all of a sudden, right, you're the director, you bought the company, say, and you've got people working on these bikes, you know, the designers, the tires, everything, and then you find out that somebody was on the bike and the bike lost control and smashed, and that person died, right, because of the bike. That would be something bad, right? And you would stop straight away. You'd stop all bikes completely. You'd halt the business. You'd be in pain and suffering. It would be just like you knocking somebody over in your car, even though it was the car, but you was driving. So you'd feel the same for the rest of your life. You would feel bad, okay? Now imagine that there was nearly 300 people that died on your bikes. Imagine 300 people died on your bikes. Let's say that the bike was made of cobalt, and let's say, or lithium, and the lithium battery blew up in their face, and 300 people either got hurt really badly or died. I would ask you, would you be walking around smiling and being as powerful as anything, or would you stop that, take it off production and say, we can't do this anymore? Okay, the next thing is, do you think that you would be arrested and put into prison for creating something so dangerous? If the answer to that is yes to all them questions, then I ask you this question: why is it that Elon Musk is still walking around as if he's a god, and actually his car has killed or nearly 300 people, burnt to death people, or whatever, or knocked people over because it went out of control? Why is it that Nobody's talking about that. Why is it that he has not come to any tribunal? Why isn't it that he hasn't been arrested? Why is he walking? I mean, is it just me, or am I missing something? If one of my oils caused you to lose sight in your eye, I would be hung, drawn, and quartered by the evil system, because I'm a kind, caring person. And maybe there was a mistake there, but we're going to use you, Mr. Bayersky, because you talk against us, and we're going to throw you into prison so it looks good. But we're going to leave Elon Musk alone and let him continue because, well, why? That's the question I ask. Why is that? So I'm always dubious when people get away with murder. So that's just a point that I make. I see through the veil of bullshit, and everybody should be held accountable. And when they're not, it makes me think twice. So anyway, like I said, I'm not involved with politics, but I hope that what I've said tonight, you can at least say, okay, I kind of understand what he's saying. He's not into politics. He's more about into humanity. He wants to know that evil, in my humble opinion, that evil should be recognized, no matter what form or shape it comes in. And when people do evil things, that it should be recognized, and it should be punishable, in the sense of not killing them, but putting them away so they don't cause harm to anybody. I am not in any favor of any war. I don't want any child hurt. I don't want any woman hurt. I don't want any man hurt. That's how I see life, as I see in the playground. So as I was in the playground, I wanted everybody to just get on. And I want the same thing wherever I go. I am not a hateful person. I don't hate anybody. I spent 20 years telling you not to hate people, but to find compassion, to find resolution, to accept certain situations sometimes and not fall into the cesspit of this world, what it wants you to. It wants you to hate. It wants you to fear. It wants you to feel bad. It wants you to be perpetually in a negative state. I don't want that of you. So I don't get pulled into wars. I don't get pulled into race. I don't get pulled into religion. And I do that purposely because I'm not a lemming. I'm not a gopher. I'm not an idiot. I'm a human being who has his own belief system, and that is live and let live, but do no harm. Don't pull me into your race game. Don't pull me into your Elon Musk wars. Don't pull me into your heroes, because it doesn't work. I wish you all a lovely evening. This is just food for thought. I wish you all the best. Keep shining, keep being amazing, and don't get pulled into it. Don't get pulled into it, because if you don't know by now, it's perpetual. It will always continue. And until we stop biting, until we stop falling for all of these bullshit games, it will continue. So I wish you well. Take care. It's getting dark now. Love you all. Bye for now. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.